Hi, my name's Morag and welcome to this video on the Food Safety Hub about food transport. Transporting food from one location to another is a common process, particularly when there's functions or the business works with distribution of foods across various sites. It's important to document and control the hazards associated with temperature control across those processes. So on the Food Safety Hub, food transport is a workflow, which means we come back to that same form a few times and then close that workflow out. So the way this works is we first input the delivery location. So let's say we're delivering it to location A, wherever that might be. The product's being transported. So typically how this works is there'll be a representative sample from each temperature group. So if there's many cold products coming from the same cold room, we only really need to take the temperature of one of those products as a representative sample in a similar way that we do to incoming goods, for example. So if we were to, for example, test the ham and that product temperature was 1.6, whatever that might be, we input that temperature there. We also might have frozen products that are being transported, and again, so we're transporting some frozen duck, and then that temperature would also be input. If we are transporting hot food, it's the same process. So let's say it was hot beef curry, for example, and that product was being delivered hot. So we can have any number of these, we can have any of these temperature types in there. So this part of the process would be at departure, and so then the food temperatures would be taken, they'd be put into their containers, Ambrose containers or gastronomes or whatever they're being transported in, and then the transport would occur. So we'd be on the road, and obviously we would be logged out of the hub as we did that. Now, being a workflow, we can come back to that. So as we can see now, there's a food transport. We've got one of those which is active. We can initiate as many of these as we need to simultaneously. That will just add another workflow to the system. In this case, we will re-access that workflow at the arrival. So now we can see that that's changed to an arrival and drop-off point, the delivery location A. If we needed also to have various locations that were predefined, we've also got that option in the system as well. So as you can see here are the temperature types and for the fresh food, the frozen and the hot as we input. So typically that would be maintained in cold chain for the cold food. For the frozen food, we'd also expect that to be maintained. The temperature might increase slightly depending on the transport conditions. And also for the hot food, in this case we had hot food, so we input the temperature there, and then there's a final verification by the user to close the workflow out to say yes, they were indeed the temperatures. If they weren't the temperatures and there was something was up and they needed corrective actions, we can also input what the corrective actions were in there as well. Typically we'd expect that to be transported and delivered in the case of cold food under 5, but under temperature control through the whole workflow. So then we'll hit submit and that will close the workflow down, and that is food transport. So we can see there all of that information has been submitted to the database from both departure and drop-off temperatures.